A sound post setting, Bridgeport. It's
You just do it by experimenting, just move the sound post around, see what.
well, I mean, there's a measurement that you start with. There's a place where it should go, you know. But if you're not happy with the sound, if you know what you're doing, you can mess with it. You can also mess up an instrument if you don't know what you're doing. If the post doesn't fit exactly right, you can end up cracking the top, or just digging a hole in the top and moving it around so much. Because spruce is pretty soft. And I've repaired a few fiddles where it has a post hole dug in it. People just moving it around too much. Gotta be careful.
Do you find that your tastes have changed from your beginning playing to later on as far as what you like in the sound of an instrument?
Well, our tastes change every day.
Yeah. But what I mean is an instrument that you might have thought sounded good and
I
was set
stopped-
up well 15 years ago, maybe.
I put a pickup bridge on this because I was doing some days with the Flectones and I needed to plug in. And then I started playing with Lyle Lovett, so who also needed something to plug in. So I just went ahead and put a pickup bridge on this because I needed it. I didn't want to play another fiddle because I'm used to this one. And I've regretted it ever since. And a year ago I took it back off. But when I did, it sounded so bright to me that I said, well, that's not right. My bridge had worked a little in the 2 years that I'd had it off. The old bridge had worked in the case. I put it back on, it was kind of under like this. And I thought, well, that's the reason it's not sounding right. So I put another bridge on it, and it sounded even worse. Just real bright. And this fiddle has been my main fiddle since I was 12 years old. And it was really upsetting. So I put it in the case and started playing another one that I found that I really like, and I still play it too. And so finally, after I'd gotten used to the other fiddle and playing it for about 6 months, I took this to Fred Carpenter down there in Nashville, the violin shop, and he said, Fred, try a new post, try another bridge. I want my baby back. And so he did, and that was it. It was the combination of the post and the bridge just wasn't right. I didn't have the right bridge. I tried a harder bridge, and it helped. Took a little more weight off of it. Sometimes I take a rat tail file and I open up the holes in the bridge. That really helps. But mostly a good post fit, which sometimes, if you don't know what you're doing, it can take you 6 or 7 different posts before you get the angle right on the inside. And so I got her back.
So what's the story of that fiddle?
I bought it from Kenny Baker when I was 12 at Bean Blossom, Indiana, Billman, Wisconsin. My dad took me there just because I was into bluegrass and had never been on the East Coast at all. And so the irony of it is that my dad had just built me a violin from scratch and done a wonderful job. It's a beautiful instrument. And I use it as an octave, I have octave strings. I was playing that, and so I took it up to the table. Kenny had about 30 fiddles laid out on the table to sell them. And I guess the whiskey budget was down that year. So I picked up a bunch of them, and my dad wasn't really too keen on buying me another fiddle since he just made me. But I picked up this thing and I just drew a bow across it, and it was like a cannon going off compared to anything else I'd seen. And and then I played the one my dad built me, and I didn't say anything. My dad goes, "It sounds puny compared to the tech." I didn't want to say it. So I asked Kenny, I said, well, this is a really good one. And he said, yep, played that back in '58 with Bill. So it's been in your closet since 1958. That's the deal. And it had a baby fingerboard on it. It had a 3/4 size violin fingerboard. It only came down to here. And the neck had a big warp in it. Not really playable as it was. And he goes, it's just Roy Acuff gave me this other fiddle I've been playing it ever since. That one's just kind of stayed in the case. I said, it's really nice. But some 12-year-old kid just doesn't have money in his pocket. So my dad was looking at it and said, this sounds really good. So we went back to the camp, and he was telling my mom about it. So she went down and said, let me see that fiddle. We went down. My mom wrote Kenny a check right then for it. It was $250. Nothing. and I've played it ever since. And it's just it's a luck. It's just luck, you know, that you run into. There's not that many great instruments that are affordable.
In what you just played, John Barleycorn, there was a double stop slide that, right at the end, I guess like at the end of the, yeah, what are you doing there?
It's a D7. Or
Yeah, you played the lower one, so. Okay. So that's the fourth across there that you're hitting like the third and seventh on that?
yeah,
The G7?
trusting that somebody in the band's playing the root. There's a lot of trust involved.
When I was asking the question about setting up for tone and so on, where does it vary from fiddle to fiddle, or do you always like to have, basically when you're working acoustic, you like to have the mic sticking up at a certain angle or position where you play? Basically, a lot of what I do, I'm in the situation you were in where I need to be electrified. But when you get at bluegrass festivals and you get in situations where you need to work the mic, is there a reason either for freedom to work the mic, or is there a particular sweet spot that you like to try to?
It depends on a lot of things, but yes, I mean within a few inches, you know, the G spot is right there, about 2 inches from the F hole. You know, unless you're using a condenser mic and not singing into it, which is what I do with this band. I need a dynamic mic.
You had a condenser mic yesterday, though, right?
No.
No?
Yesterday. Well, which stage?
Over there.
There's a 57.
Yeah.
That's a dynamic mic.
Okay.
So, today I had an EV. That's a dynamic mic too. A condenser mic with a windscreen will also work because I'm not singing too much lead, but you'll get pops on the condenser. A condenser you can work 3 to 4 inches away. My favorite one is the KM84 Neumann with the windscreen on it. That's the best that I've played for live or sometimes in the studio too.
What model is that?
The KM84. They don't even make them anymore. I think it's called a 184 now. It's a Neumann German mic.
Do you strictly play through a mic when you're,
With NBB, yeah.
you don't have any?
Oh, not with this band. The only time I'll use a pickup is if somebody else is and there's a drummer.
What kind of pickup do you use when you have to use it?
Well, for a long time I was using a bags bridge pickup with the microphone split into a stereo preamp. What I found is that for the majority of times that I was using that thing for TV shows or with Wild Love It or wherever, with the Flectones was the only time that the engineer, sound man, would use the microphone. Use enough of it that it made a difference. Because usually there's a drummer, and if you're using any kind of microphone, drums go in the mic. So he can't control the drum level if he's turning you up for your solo and the drums get louder too. So basically you're a victim of your circumstance in that case. And so I just started just not carrying the preamp. Too heavy to carry, and nobody's using the mic anyway. So basically what I decided to do is the Sam Bush approach was to just use a pickup and put some effects on it. So it's tolerable, some delay, some verb. So it's a gamble whether or not you're going to be happy with your sound doing that. It becomes another instrument, and if you treat it that way and play it like it's another instrument, it works sort of. But you can't really play. You can't get that sound of a double stop. Doesn't sound like air when you're playing through a pickup. It's grainy, and you have to roll a bunch of highs off, and then when you do that, it sounds sort of like a fiddle with a mute on it through another door somewhere. Yeah, that good. Any other optimistic questions?
Who does your fiddle work in?
When I'm done messing it up, I take it to Fred Carpenter's place, the violin shop. I try to do as much as I can myself. Just,
Have you used that guy, I forget his name, he's out there by Joe Glazer?
I don't know where Joe Glazer is.
All right, well, I don't know.
Robert Boland is doing some good work.
With Fred Carpenter.
Yeah, I've been real happy with Fred's work. A good friend of mine, Dave Harvey's doing a lot of work there now. He's a great repair person.
I've noticed you use a lot more dissonant kind of double stops than you're playing with most bluegrass players, and I really like that. How did you come to do that? Just listening to all these different styles?
Yeah, John Coltrane, I don't know. Just, yeah, listening to jazz and listening to a lot of vocal harmonies. You know, a lot of the old black church vocal harmonies have a lot of dissonance, you know, weird notes. And pedal steel players too. Buddy Emmons. For sure. You know, like.
How'd you get those? Just messing around and over the years, develop,
Yeah.
figure out where they work?
Yeah, just getting tired of being ordinary.
One of the things about that the fiddle and the pedal steel have in common, they don't have frets or definite stops, so that you can move a lot of notes. I don't know if you're familiar with pedal steel at all, but you work in both feet, both knees, and both hands, and so on. So you can hold one note and bend a lot of others around it into other chord forms.
I think that, you know, anybody that can play a pedal steel has got to be proof that aliens have visited.
Careful.
I tried for 2 years. I mean, I even took lessons on the thing. It does not make sense. The only thing that makes sense about it is that I want to do it.
Yeah.
So anybody that's frustrated about not being able to play the fiddle, maybe they should try pedal steel. Obviously not from the same part of the brain.
Do you do anything on a third? I have trouble getting the third of the chord in tune. And find that I have to play it sharper than my ear wants to hear.
Is that because you're playing with mandolin and guitar players?
Sometimes that's true.
Does the guy have a Martin guitar? Because the third's always going to be sharp.
Yeah. Do you play it sharp to your ear?
Well, it depends. I mean, it seriously is a problem. Most instruments, most bluegrass instruments, with the exception of a very few well-made ones, don't note out very well. And sometimes it's the fault, the ignorance of whoever set the banjo, mandolin, or guitar up, or the player not to go get it set up correctly, or just the fact that the luthier didn't put the frets in the right place on the fingerboard, and the mandolin's such a small scale that if it's not in exactly the right spot, it's going to note out of tune. And the majority of instruments play out of tune. So you're playing fiddle, and you're forced to play what sounds in tune with the band, but in reality, with itself, it's not really in tune. So as far as to answer your question, where do I put the third? It's kind of like, well, who am I playing with?
So that's a
Sometimes I'll put vibrato on the third when I'm not using vibrato on the root, if I'm playing a double stop. Like, it kind of leaves it ambiguous. So it could be, yeah, that's right. No problem. But, you know, if you put the third below, it's in a different place than if you put it above. Just like on a piano, you know, have some pianos sometimes don't sound quite in tune.
Yeah.
They're not tempered. You know, your ear wants to hear that third a little flatter when it's above the root than it does below. Mine does.
So you play the same note as a D on your A string. Say you play that, your finger be in the same spot if you're playing in G or in E.
I don't know. Let's see.
Are you really trying to keep them feeling?
place with those two, maybe with something else.
Are you really aware of it? If you're having to play a little bit sharp or flat? As far as
Well,
when you're playing with a band, are you really?
I'll put it where I think it's going to be, and then if it's not right, I'll move it real fast. That goes with all of them. For that. Sometimes, like if you're playing in a place in the song where the tenor, if you're playing where there's vocals, and the tenor harmony is flattened a little, just stylistically. It's not going to sound very good if you hit that third right in tune. You might want to slide it the same way the tenor vocalists do. Just friendly.
I got a question about your bow. How tight you like the hair to be? And I mean, can you talk about the difference between having it pretty tight and because a lot of jazz players will have it real loose, and a lot of old-time players will have it loose, and a lot of people have it tight.
Anytime I'm playing real quietly, like playing old-time music, with just a guitar and a clawhammer banjo or something, I'll have it down about there. But in a full bluegrass band, playing over a 58 that's not turned up loud enough, yeah, you need almost a quarter of an inch sometimes in the center.
Do you
especially out here, it's so dry that if I took this down much further than that, the end would pop out just because this bow is freaking out because it hasn't ever been in Colorado.
Do you notice a difference in different weights of bows?
I used to not care. I used to say, well, yeah, it feels good. As long as it's between, 55 and 60 grams, it's fine with me. And then I finally got a good bow, just accidentally. Traded into a good bow. And so I had it weighed, and it was 60.5 grams. And so that sure feels good. And then I started, after I got used to that bow, I could never go back to anything else.
To a lighter bow?
The only thing left for me to do was to spend more money. If you get a good bow, forget it. Because you'll never go back. You have to have good bows till you die.
How often do you get that repaired?
About, depends. In the summer, I'll go through it in 4 months. Wintertime, I'll go 8 months.
Playing the same amount? Or?
It depends. I never break a hair in the studio, ever. Live, I'll break 2 in a set. I just play hard.
Have you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Have you always had? You have a pretty classical grip. Have you ever played any other way?
That was the only thing I got out of my 3 weeks of classical. I started holding my bow right, and I started keeping my elbow under. You have to be able to hold the violin like this if you're going to play double stops. Like. If you're like this, I can't figure out where anything is because I've got too many points of contact with my hand to, and I have to reach my pinky way over to get it. If I'm like this, it's all right there. So it's an elbow thing. It's very uncomfortable to get used to. But thumb at the back of the neck, right there, elbow under.
So you pretty much self-taught and you had those 3 weeks and then you just...
After that, I took another 6 months with an old-time fiddler. Went straight from an orchestra player to a hippie.
So I've asked so many people this question because it's been a struggle for me in switching styles. I hear it, I listen to it more than probably anybody I know, and it's just breaking out of years and years of this classical training.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just really stumps me, and I sit down and practice, and I know I want to do it, and I know I have the facility, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I listen to stuff, like the one that I'm always trying to pick out is Up Around Bend. I don't know why I didn't pick an easier tune to pick out.
I don't even know that one.
Yes, you do. Play on it.
Who's song is that?
It's on the Drive CD.
Oh, see, those tunes weren't named when we were recording.
Oh. For the longest time, it was the third cut, and I finally looked to see what the name was.
Yeah, I have that problem, as far as knowing the name of the song that I played on.
But
Because-
when I try and put something like that out, it's really hard for me, and so I end up just with frustration. Instead
Yeah.
of making any progress.
Well, I rarely hear a violinist that sounds like they really grew up playing fiddle, or you always can sort of tell that they have a classical approach.
And I don't want that.
A lot of people ask me if I'm classically trained. Most people ask me that.
You're very clean, like,
And probably the way I hold it too has that with like Richard Green, I can always tell in his playing that he's classical.
yeah, you really can.
And that's then Jonathan Yudkin, the player used to play with Kathleen Mattea, he's a Nashville player. He's also classically trained. I can hear it immediately.
There's no hope.
It's not a bad thing. It's just it's recognizable. It could be that a classical vibrato is more immediate, but I think it's more of a right hand approach. I don't see a lot of classical players spending much time down here at the end of the bow doing single note stuff. It's more.
It's a lot of the bowing. Some of the stuff, the bowings that I've changed have changed my sound instantly from classical to fiddle.
Like Tim O'Brien, he'll play Sally Gooden's. He'll only use this much of the bow up here.
Yeah. So what do you like recommend? I mean, I just keep listening, 'cause that's what I do.
Yeah.
Just keep trying to play and stick my neck out.
I listened to a lot of tapes of myself. And it was hard to do. But I would hear things that I'd really hate, and so I got to stop doing that. It's things that I thought, I was doing right when I did them, and then I would hear a tape, and it would immediately humble me. And I'd realize that, I know what I'm trying to do there, but that's not it. So what do I need to do to make it sound more like that? And just go back at it. Just keep working on it.
Wait, after you studied for those 6 months with that old-time fiddle player, did you just then go out on your own and just learn on your own?
For the first 3 years, I played everything like. Ah! Finally, I think it might have been Ed Neff that came up to me and says, you got to stop that shuffle. I was like, wow, this guy's telling me down. Who is this guy? I thought I was doing great. Finally somebody said, the end of that song, you need to hold that out a little longer. And finally people started telling me, well, everybody's telling him, oh, he's so cute. Look, he's only 10 years old. I said, yeah, but he sucks. Finally you get to a point where you got to go further. Somebody helps you out.
One of the things that I think helped me a lot was listening to singers. When you talk about bluegrass music, if you listen to what the vocal is, and sometimes play the thing as if you were singing. And there's a lot of different expression in there, and in the vocal parts of it that are very applicable to listen to other instruments. I still love to try to steal licks from other instruments because it changes my approach to what I do.
Yeah. Dobro and banjo licks on the fiddle. It's true.
When did you start playing with other people?
Right off.
Guitars?
Well, my dad played a little bit of two-finger style banjo, Pete Seeger style, closet folky one. And he was a captain in the Marine Corps, folk banjo player. Figured that one. But my mom sang Irish and Scottish ballads, strum guitar. This is, of course, only at home. And then down in San Diego, they used to have a fiddle contest, and the three of us, my mom and dad and I, entered the band contest. My dad, played like Roddy McCory or some Irish ballad, marching through Georgia, and my mom would play guitar and I'd play fiddle. My dad got really embarrassed after that because we were going to make the finals. We had to come up with another tune, so we were rehearsing one. There's a crowd gathered around, and I, being the sarcastic 7-year-old that I was, or 8-year-old, or whatever it was, I said, "Dad, your third string's out of tune." He said, "Well, okay." So he messes around with it, and my dad was the worst tune ear. He can't hear anything. He played pretty good, but couldn't tune it. And so I said, "Dad, just give me the banjo." He should have spanked me, but there was everybody standing there. So he hands me the banjo, and he's just like, ding, 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 ding. Okay, here. It's just always easy for me to tune music. And it just made him mad. He said, "We're not playing together ever." It wasn't quite that bad, but he still played with me at home. But we never entered any more contests. And so, yeah. I had an early start at playing different instruments. I still play a little bit of clock.
Do you think the sense of harmony, is it necessary to play a sort of a harmony instrument like guitar or banjo, or fiddle players harder?
Maybe not necessary. It's helped me, with your training. And it's helped me develop respect for people who play those other instruments. Like mandolin. I can play mandolin great for about 20 minutes, but I could, if I had to do an all-night thing like Roland does, my fingers would be hammered. It really will tear up your left hand and give you a cramp in your thumb too. If you don't know how to hold it just right and relax. And I have trouble relaxing on the mandolin. It's just the way it is. Guitar, it's a big old D28 or something with high action. I'm good for about 45 seconds. Because a fiddle player's fingers, calluses they're there, but they're not like a guitar player.
Where do you see your music going? Like, do you have like a vision, or you just let?
I'm just trying to learn more all the time. I'm trying to fit in, actually, possibly taking jazz lessons from somebody this next year. I'm getting tired of not being able to play through the changes as well as I'd like. Yeah, and I'm not even looking to be, a chicory or anything. I want to be able to play some swing. Be happy doing that.
When are you playing with Meltdown?
When?
Didn't you say you were recording with them?
Well, I've done a few recordings with them, and I went on the road with them a year and a half ago. Sam Bush was out with a few. It's their stuff, and they would do their more outside stuff at the beginning of the show, and then I'd come out and play the 6 songs of theirs that I could practice enough to muster. It's really complicated stuff. So, and some tunes are, the fiddle is a lot like a saxophone in the way, as far as how notes are held and phrasing and everything. So it would, plugged in with some verb, kind of conjure a pop saxophone kind of thing with the fiddle, which is what Fiddle was looking for, something that had notes that held out, because the Flecktones music there's a lot of notes that don't last very long. So it was his idea to call people like Sam Bush and Paul McCandless, who plays oboe, and me to kind of fill in the something that overlaps into the next phrase. So I hope I can do some of that in the future, but he's having different guest artists all the time. Plays rotation.
Can you play that too?
Sure.
Yeah, I was wondering what you did if somebody asked you to play with them just out of the blue, and maybe you don't know every song of theirs by heart. Would you just listen to their tape? They give you a tape to listen to and practice over that? Or?
It depends on if I'm doing a session with like a David Greer. I did an album with him recently where luckily I knew some of the tunes from the album before that I produced where I had said, no, let's not do that one. So somebody else produced this next one, and so he called me to play on the record, and I had to play on those tunes anyway. And so I said, you better send me a tape. So he gave me a tape, and I had 2 weeks to work it out. And actually, I heard it one day of the first week, and played the tape. And then the night before the session, I sat down for 3 hours and went through each of the tunes and learned the melody lines. But I kept the tape in my car a week before that just to get the whole picture in my mind of how the tunes went. Sometimes, most of the time, you walk in, they show you the song and you play it within 2 hours. Most of the time. Or if it's somebody like a jam session, you pray that they don't give you the first solo. Please, I'll take the last one. You'll learn it. What was the tune up around the band?
Oh, God, you want me to sing it? I can't sing.
You know what key?
It's the one, it's, yeah, A, or no, it's a D. See, I can't pick it out.
One in, was it the D minor?
No, it's D major. Makes you want to dance.
Oh, that one. Yeah, there you go. You got a fiddle.
But I don't know it. I can't figure it out.
Where's your bow?
I don't want to figure it
Come on, Laura. I just need the first 4 notes.
out. But I don't know the first 4 notes. It's on my answer machine.
Okay, everybody take 5.
Was that it, Lauren?
Oh, I can't remember.
Think I know which one?
It's twin fiddles, you and Mark.
Yeah, it's you, Mark, are playing. We
Oh,
started off.
that is D minor.
Yeah.
Oh, did we play more than one together?
Yeah.
Was that it, Lauren?
Oh, I can't remember.
Think I know which one?
It's twin fiddles, you and Mark.
Yeah, it's you, Mark, are playing. We
Oh,
started off.
that is D minor.
Yeah.
Oh, did we play more than one together?
Yeah, I really. I can't. If I had the album I could sort of figure it out.
Play some more of it. Do you, like the second part or something? Or?
Oh,
This is a workshop. This is
I know,
what we're
I
supposed to
know.
be doing.
I'm totally eluding me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
No, that's not.
that's it. That's
Just play everyone in
Yeah, that's it.
on the
That's it.
Play everyone on the
There
album.
you go. Thank you, Paul.
That's the weird one. took me a couple of days sitting in front of a tape deck just to play to figure out the melody line.
And that's what I
mean,
so
'cause-
probably should just get a tape, one of those tape decks and slow the beat down.
Yeah, I didn't happen to have one of those handy. And, you know, when Bela puts something on tape, it's like, put a little bit of
I've just tried to pick that out so many times, and I get like little fragments of it. Never the whole thing.
I know your feeling.
It's great.
And one of the cool parts about it is you couldn't hear the chords behind that part. That's it.
You don't have a whole pile of, you play a lot, but you don't have a whole pile of rosin all over there. So you clean that thing up or you just,
Well, I just got this out of the shop.
oh, okay.
So, yeah, see me in about 7 months. No, I rarely clean it off. I'll throw a rag at it a little bit when I change strings.
Do you wipe your strings out when you
Board.
course of playing? Or like before you play, you wipe it out?
Usually after, right after I play. So that it's, no, I just cotton rag. And if I get some buildup happening, then I'll take some alcohol to the board.
Yeah.
But strain is just a cotton rag.
What kind of rosin do you use?
I don't know, the label came off.
How often do you rosin up?
Probably need some now. It's been 3 days.
Oh, really?
So maybe every 4th show.
Really? That infrequent.
Don't use much. Especially if you're using with helicore strings, it doesn't matter, they're pretty soft. But if you're using a steel string, it's a plastic, that rosin will make it really noisy. You get too much of it on there. And it takes a couple of shows to wear it off, so it stops being noisy. And then if you get instant humidity, playing in some place where there's condensation happening, and you put some rosin on, it'll take 5 shows to get that hair sounding. Might as well just go get it re-haired. It's frustrating.
Do you do anything in particular to keep like your wrist and your arm and your shoulder in shape so that when you get older, it won't be major time?
Yep, I nurse the baby.
I'm just serious. Is there any exercises that you recommend that people do to keep them in shape so they don't have future problems?
Exercise? No, other than playing. No.
Other than playing.
The only time I've ever done any exercise, any kind, is when I had an injury and the doctor made me do this with my hand because it was right in my index finger. I had a piece of deck would go straight to the tendon.
Oh my goodness.
So I had to do this for about 8 months with a little grabber.
But that's all.
Get all the motion back.
That's all.
No, other than, walking every day.
Well, I know Vassar has a lot of trouble with his arm. I was just wondering if there's anything you're trying to do to avoid that.
Well,
Old age is one of the.
basically what I try to do is to keep my neck from being out of line, from the contortion you have to get into just to play the instrument. I try to spend 20 minutes on the floor, on a flat floor with no pillow or anything, just doing exercises like that, just straightening out my spine. Because if you spend as long like this as you should, every other day to practice, you're going to have some problems back here.
So that's what you do. You do somebody prescribe particular exercises?
No, it's just I've
Or
always
you
done that
just
since I
figured
was
it
a
out?
kid.
Oh,
Just
really?
lay on the floor. That's what they're for. Down there, straight your back out.
Do you in the course of just, I don't know what your regular practice routine is, do you ever mess around with, a lot of bluegrass stuff is in pretty, the same kind of keys. Do you ever mess around like a D flat or G flat just to say that?
If I'm in the studio and the tune is simple enough, I'll go ahead. If if a vocalist is singing D flat, which happens all the time, I'll go, well, it's not quite right for me. Can we move it up a half step? Okay. Just because it's murder.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, I was wondering about
Just got to remember, well, it's a little further apart than.
well, because
I don't do it for fun.
Yeah.
I do it as a challenge.
Yeah, I mess around every day in a different key. Every 12th day, we're back in G. But for 15 or 20 minutes, just play some scales.
I would say that it would help you tremendously. It would help me, but I don't. I do play in E flat a lot. I love E flat, E flat, F. Love those. Sometimes it's fun to experiment, but usually I'm under pressure to get it right the first time, so I'm not into experimenting. But if I'm in a jam and someone's playing a G flat, I'll mess around and see what kind of weird half-step open string things I can come up with. The other thing I've been doing is playing out of F sharp minor. G string down a half step. Okay.
Is that why you had two fiddles on stage? You had one on tune like that?
I had one in D tune. The first string down to D, D, A, D, D, the G all the way down to an octave. I got a heavy helichord on that string. Anything else I can clear up or confuse?
Yeah, sometimes when I draw on a down bow, you get some bouncing in the bow. Is that like
Down bow?
Yeah, is that too much pressure on my index? Is that too much pressure down my index finger? Or? Yeah.
Probably not a good enough bow and too much tension, and maybe not enough balance action between your index and your pinky.
Yeah.
As far as
sometimes take my pinky all the way off.
Yeah, I'm using my third finger and my pinky as kind of a little bit of downward pressure there next to the. Do I dare use the word fulcrum? It's probably physicist and probably not right. Is my thumb the pivot? See my bow bounce. I'm actually using a cup to steady the bow. I'm actually using an angle of pressure because of just the way my hand is. My thumb is kind of, if say my bow is level with the floor, my thumb is kind of pushing in that direction, while my third finger is actually pushing in this direction. So not only do I have up and down control, but I have this kind of support too, which also helps keep the balance.
Another thing that I've seen sometimes is when people really drag their elbow in their bow, they don't have the support that they need. If your elbow's too low this way, you're not going to twist your bow if your elbow's you're drawing your weight down this way. That's a lot of it.
We got any band members that want to play a couple with me? I'll play one with you. Anybody else still busy?
Bass and fiddle sounds pretty good. Yeah. It's a band. It's a band.
Move that stuff around whatever way you want to.
Well, I mentioned how I really would love to play swing someday. Gene is also one of those guys. Actually, he's had more experience at it than I have. So anytime we get together, we like to pretend we're bebop players. Love to a certain point.